Productions.
The Green Route merch available now on sourkidsmerch.com.
Due to suggestive adult themes and dialogue, this podcast is intended for adults. In other words, the truth is ugly, so we get ugly right along with it. Everything we say is out of love for ourselves, our people, and our community. Sincerely, the Green Route Podcast. Want to welcome y'all to the Green Route Podcast. I am GS.
And I am Marlissa. What's up, y'all? Welcome back.
Welcome back. We survived the eclipse.
I had a blast.
You had a blast?
A good time. Yeah.
So the eclipse is our first topic. Let's go ahead and jump into it.
Let's jump in. All right. So, yeah, Dallas was in just happened to be kind of smack dab in a 115-mile stretch of the United States that was going to experience total darkness with this eclipse. So, I mean, I have seen plenty of eclipses before. Never experienced totality during the daylight. Right now, if it happens at night, we just don't care because nothing changes. But yeah, during the day, like it was actually pretty dope. I feel like everybody was having like a fucking eclipse party or brunch or something, but I also felt like it was pretty cool that like people was getting into science and like as someone who tends to be a nerd herself, like it was actually really dope to see like my hood ass neighbors outside with their glasses on,
looking
like,
up at the skyline,
excited. And then DISD kept the kids in school, so there's two schools on either side of the neighborhood, and it was cool because when it started to get dark, like all you hear is like these elementary school kids like screaming, and they were just having such a good time. So for me, it was a good ass day. Like, what'd you do? I was gonna say,
so I was a part of one of those parties.
Okay.
We had a rooftop party to view the eclipse. I, like yourself, we were next to Town View, so we had all the Town View kids when it got dark.
Yep.
All of them saw it. So I'll say for me personally, I wasn't really into it at first, or when I heard about it coming to Dallas. I just was like, okay, all right. But to experience a natural phenomenon like that, it's like, oh yeah, you kind of can't help but be amazed at it. So it looked like 8 p.m. in the middle of the afternoon.
Seriously,
it looked. It was just, I guess in your mind, like it was like one of those almost like mind fucks, because it's like one something, but it definitely felt like it was, later on in the day, and it was just nothing you can do about it. It's happening, and you just get to experience it. So I thought the temperature dropped. It was actually really. It was a real cool, eerie. It was it was one of those things where it was like, we cut the music just to let everybody kind of experience it, but it seemed like it was happening for a while. But it was like, it was 4 minutes. So I was like, all right, y'all, it's gonna unshine back. It's gonna reshine again. And it was like, so I studied a little bit about like cultures of color and kind of their beliefs around eclipses, and so obviously indigenous peoples have extensive beliefs. Like some of them are very interesting, where there's like a toiling of, like interstellar bodies. Like you have some that sit very quietly and reverent, like some where like they're not supposed to eat or really speak or anything like that. But then I studied the history of enslaved people and how eclipses have played a role in our history. Brother Nat Turner. Yes. Didn't he wait for eclipse before he
that was his
pursued
sign.
Freedom?
So yeah, it was something that apparently he had been pondering for a very long time. And so he saw an eclipse one day and took that as a sign from the heavens that this was the moment. But crazy enough, like he ended up getting sick. Like, so that's when he started like planning, right? He started like recruiting other slaves or whatever, enslaved people for his plan. He ended up getting sick. So it put his plans on hold. But crazy enough, he saw another like sky phenomenon, which is like a hazy green sun. It was like an atmospheric thing that happened. And he happened to look up and was like, oh, the heavens are definitely telling me this is what I need to do. And so literally that's when he launched the attack on his owner's home at the time. So yeah, so as I was watching it, like I took my dogs outside, and Thelly, if y'all don't know my dog Thelly, but he's a pit bull lab. He's very clingy and he don't fuck around, okay? anything weird, Thelly is like not here for it. He's going to hide. So as it started getting dark, it was so funny because he's like, you know, hanging out, just happy to be outside, and it's getting dark, and it's like total darkness, right? And all I see is Thelly like look back at me. He starts backing up towards me like, I don't like this shit. This ain't regular.
This ain't right.
This ain't normal. I was like, even my dog is like, something is wrong. But it was like watching it go dark and then watching the light come back. I don't know, like I even felt like this weird like rebirth almost. Of like, damn, you get to experience this in the middle of the day. That's cool.
So it was two things to it. So it was one, I loved, like you said, kind of to that point, like I love that we, you know, just as Black people just got a chance to just experience that. Because I'm pretty sure, you know, if this happened, 10 years ago, we would have been, you know, locked up in a job or locked up in a school or just not having the opportunity to enjoy experience that, you know what I mean? So it was good just seeing, you know, just us out there just taking that in. The other thing, speaking of signs and wonders, our friend Marjorie Taylor Greene had tweeted something to the effect of,
going over to
we have eclipses and earthquakes on the East Coast. God is coming back soon. Something to that effect. Somebody reposted it and tweeted, this would have been the one who would have been sacrificing babies to bring the sun back. Because that's the other side of this. There are people who would have who see these things and try to turn them into something else.
As if they haven't been happening since the beginning of Earth's formation and the moon's formation.
And let's be clear here, y'all. I do believe that, to Mel's point, that yes, these things have been happening for years. Science actually would teach you that this has been going on for years.
If you just pay attention to science.
But at the same time, I do think that a lot of people are full of shit in terms of their interpretation and how they choose to weaponize it for religious purposes.
Right.
So there is that part. It's just one of those things that's like, it's a dope experience, but it also can be used in terrible ways.
Yeah, and so for me, I was actually talking to some of my kids at Madison a couple weeks ago about the eclipse, like, you know, that they had heard was upcoming, because we were talking about whether or not they were going to get out of school. And I had two in particular that was just like, man, I feel like this is Jesus coming back. And I was just like, okay, like, let's talk about it. Like, let's talk about why you think the eclipse means that. And not that I was trying to, like, you know, get in the way of their beliefs or anything, but I do think it's important that you can be a believer, but also understand the science behind why things happen the way they do. And so we sat and had a conversation about what they will actually be seeing and why it happens, like how the moon passes in front of us, you know, in between us and the sun, and completely blocks it for me. And I'm like, so, like, I don't think you have to worry about Jesus coming back. Like, I want you to understand that there is actual science behind this, and that is nothing to be afraid of. Like,
no, that to that point, I'm glad that you were there to do that for him. So I think that's dope, because a lot of times, again, our own interpretations can be turned into, not necessarily turned into something, but depending on who we're listening to, it can be turned into something else.
Right. Because how many people saw Marjorie Taylor Greene's tweet and was like, oh my God, she's not
right.
Knowing that, like, yes, New York actually sits on tectonic plates. They may not be very active, but that area is on tectonic plates. So every once in a while, you are going to have a shift in them that will cause an earthquake. Like, it's science, and it's okay for it to be science. Like, it doesn't have to be anything more than that. But I think about the people who have not been exposed to that science, and they can easily look at a Marjorie Taylor Greene and be like, yep, 100% right. Maybe we should sacrifice those babies.
What it reminds me of is this story that I heard about Christopher Columbus and what he did, because where he came from, they had some understanding of the stars. They understood, the cycles of the moon. And what he did was, when he was negotiating with Native American tribes, he told them if they don't show him the gold or show him what he needs or give him what he needs, God is going to send a blood moon to you all, and that's going to show that you all will be cursed. They were not aware of the cycles. Of course they had seen a blood moon, but they weren't aware of the cycles and how often they were going to come out. So basically, he was a dick and used science to trick them into getting what he wanted out of them. So I'll say this, y'all, when it comes to the cool natural phenomenon that we see, it's one or two ways. It can be a message to some, a message to some, like we said, to our brother, Nat Turner, but it's a moment for others. And that's okay too. Just don't let someone else conflate it for you. For some of us, we needed that message. For some of us, that eclipse probably did mean more than just a natural phenomenon. It probably was something that we needed to see and experience. But then for others, it was cool as hell. We had our glasses on. Yeah. Was somebody say raw dog in the sun, just looking at it without no glasses, just wow, trying to squint and see it. And that and whatever it meant to you, like I feel like that was meant to be, right? But I do have a problem with people who, like Christopher Columbus, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, right, will use certain predictable things to try to exactly. She so I'm reading you reading that, you see? Okay, so y'all, she said God is sending America a strong sign to tell us to repent, earthquakes and eclipses and many more things to come. So on Twitter now you can add context to like fact check people. So someone said there are approximately 1,700 earthquakes in the US every year, about 4 a day. So then she doubles down and says many have mocked and scoffed at this post and even put community notes. Oh no. Jesus talks about that in Luke 12:54-56. Read with me if you will. I actually don't have the scripture. She also says, yes, eclipses are predictable and earthquakes happen. And we know when comets are passing by. However, God created all those things and uses them to be signs for those of us who believe. So she's the next Nat Turner, is what she told. So it's one of those things to where it's like when you hide in the shelter of religiosity, you like, I can't call you crazy because this is according to your spiritual. This is your belief. This is according to your beliefs. But then again, I look at your Jewish space lasers comments. I look at all the other crazy and wild shit that you've done and said, and just realize that your religiosity is tied up into your craziness. Because Marjorie Taylor Greene, you are crazy and racist. I'm not sure if your craziness causes you to be racist or your racism causes you to be crazy. I don't know which came first, the chicken or the egg. The world will never know. That's it. All we know is that they both exist. You bet. You crazy and racist. No, good shit. Good shit. All right, y'all. So speaking of racist, let's go to, and I guess xenophobes. Let's go over to Gaza and check in on our cousins over there. So earlier this week, GS has sent me a post that I was just very, very happy to get. So a few things are happening right now. The UN Security Council has asked their membership committee to consider a Palestinian application for full statehood. Right now, Palestine has like this special standing kind of on the perimeter of the UN where, they can speak. It's almost like what the Vatican has, like very similar to like the Vatican. Like you can kind of like audit the class, right? Can't really participate too much, but you can audit, you can say some shit. So Palestinian officials have come to the UN like, hey, we want to be treated like every other state, every other country. We want full membership. So the UN Security Council has asked its membership committee to consider an application, and they are going to vote on it. Before I say anything else, this happened in 2011, maybe 2017. One of those years, I'll confirm it. It didn't even get to a vote.
there was so much back and forth about, whether or not Palestine was a state, was it a country, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, on top of that, even if it had gone to a vote, the U.S., of course, had already promised and vowed to veto.
Mm-hmm.
So we are kind of back, right? History tends to repeat itself. We're getting back to that place now where the U.S. has already said that if this goes to a vote, they will veto it because they believe that Palestine has to negotiate its statehood with Israel first. We say all that to say, Spain popped out, standing on business, and was just like, we're ready to recognize Palestine as a state. So what's up? So they said by July, they would be ready to recognize the state, I'm going to be honest, of Palestine as a full state, which is huge because they are a member of the UN Security Council. So it goes to show that and they're a European country. It's huge.
That's crazy.
That right there is huge. Like if South Africa did it, they'd be like, okay. But Spain, very European, right? Like had colonies all over the world, is saying that the people of Palestine deserve full statehood within the UN. So we will have to watch that one.
A broke clock can be right twice a day. So that's one. And I definitely want to recognize Spain. And let's be clear, Spain, this doesn't clear you up from the years of colonialism, terror that you've imparted on countries in the past. But I guess it's one of those things where it takes one to know one. And if you have one past genocidal country, again, colonialist country that can recognize you participating in genocides and willing to go against you and support the quote unquote terrorist state, what does that say about you? What does that say about you? It's just one more thing to show is how Israel is not on the right side of history. 33,000 people to this day have been killed. Of those 33, I want to say it was like 14 to 15,000 are women and children. This is completely out of hand. And again, the entire world will see the results of this. This is not something that's going to be over. We're watching this happen. And the thing is, this is the 30-year anniversary of the Rwandan genocide. One in which a lot of the Western and European powers stood on the sideline and watched happen. Over 800,000 people killed. Some estimates are in the millions for that genocide. Stood to the side and allowed that to happen. And the thing about it is, again, when it comes to genocides, there are lessons to be learned when they are over. There are lessons to be learned while they're happening. We're seeing now that those lessons were not learned. We're watching what's going on with Israel, what they're doing to Palestinians. It is not over. The powers that be have not learned how to keep things like this from happening. And I mean, the powers that be are more interested in protecting their own interest than they are innocent lives, right? Like, I will always look back at my own country first and say, like, y'all know, I know you know the signs of genocide. You can't tell me you don't. If America, if this comes back as backlash on America, it's going to be crazy, because this is all because of outside money. These are pro-Israel lobbyists who are talking to senators, who are talking to congressmen, who are talking to our representatives and keeping them from raising a hand against what's going on.
That's real.
That's all it is, because we all know that if AIPAC money wasn't involved in this, there would be a lot more people opening their mouths and speaking out against this, and President Biden wouldn't have a choice. President Biden has been getting paid by AIPAC for years.
Yes.
For years.
One of the highest paid politicians on that lobbying list.
One of the highest paid, and it's going to be terrible that the Democrats now for sure will lose all grounding, and it's going to show. It's going to start to show soon.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to lose. They've lost all grounds for moral superiority.
Yeah, yeah.
So
it's pretty disgusting, y'all. And did you also see that? I think it was Nicaragua spoke out against Germany and their support for Israel, and it was interesting because the same shit that Nicaragua is accusing, like going to the UN and like, oh look what they doing. America is doing, but it's so interesting that no one is willing to say like, hey, we should also bring the United States up on potential charges for funding and like pretty much like aiding and abetting a genocide.
It's interesting. I love those critiques because they really show the contradictory nature of America. Jon Stewart just did a really cool, a very insightful video in which they pieced together all the parts that Biden and the U.S. administration, what they were saying about Ukraine and Russia, and talked about how we cannot allow countries to go and take land from other countries, and how they were completely against
they was upset about
and we
Crimea,
have to say something. We have to speak out. We have to do something. But then when it was happening with Israel and Gaza, we are concerned. They literally spoke out against how Russia should not allow their military to keep aid from going to Ukraine, because that was something that was early on. That was an issue that was happening early on. And how they said that is completely unacceptable. Fast forward to them talking to I forgot the spokesperson, the chief of staff, talking to him about it, about how Israel is keeping aid from entering Gaza, and yet again, it's very concerning. It's very concerning. There are these
logistically, it's so difficult. Like
it's almost like it makes you it kind of makes you a little crazy. Not crazy yourself, but it just kind of makes you like, what are we living in? Like, you are clearly putting a line. Or clearly defining a line when it comes to Russia, clearly saying that this is unacceptable and we have to act. And it's the same exact thing happening with Israel and Gaza, and there's no evidence of genocide. We have found no evidence. They just interviewed Lloyd Austin, and Tom Cotton asked him, is it a genocide happening there? And he said, we have no evidence for us, which goes to the other point that we made in the last video. The reason why the U.S. won't actually say it, or they can't quote unquote say it, is because they're not asking the questions.
Well, and if they do say it, then legally, right? When you come to like the rules of engagement when it comes to war, now our shit has to be checked, because we are not allowed to commit certain acts, right? When you are engaged in world, including keeping aid, including using hunger as a war tactic, starvation as a world. So to actually say it would make you
an accessory,
right?
Would make you an accessory to the war crimes. And that's the thing. That's a part. I mean, again, that's a part of the sick plan of Israel. I feel like
it's deny.
It's no. This is not only just deny, but it's what we want is for the world to know that America is in on this, because if this comes back, or when Palestine gets their state back, and now they're taking people to tribunal, to The Hague, America is automatically implicated, and that's what Israel wants. Israel wants to the worse the more atrocities Israel commits, the more it's linking itself with America. It's pulling America into this. And America's just like, no, this is it's a concern.
Dumb as fuck.
So
just another thing is, y'all, we just read is, so there have been ongoing talks and I'm sick of saying this. I swear to God, I'm sick of saying it every week. But there are continuing talks about a ceasefire. I believe these talks are happening in Cairo still. But part of the issue with these talks, allegedly, has been figuring out how many Palestinian prisoners will be released for Israeli hostages. Somehow, the number came up that we need 40 hostages, and Hamas came back and was like, we ain't got 40 to trade for your deal. So what's up? Now, what I'm trying to figure out, and we don't have the context yet, is whether or not there's not 40 left, period, like, or whether they have them and are just unwilling to give up enough to meet the threshold to be able to get a ceasefire deal done. Israel is claiming that about 130 hostages should be left in Gaza. But Hamas is like, yeah, no, we don't even have 40. So I'm not sure where the disconnect is there. But it also makes me feel that a lot of this back and forth, right, and not wanting to send delegation and not really liking the ratio of prisoners to hostages being swapped is just so that they can keep doing what the fuck they've been doing, bombarding these people without a ceasefire because, like, oh, we just can't reach them can't reach one.
We know that's the tactic, though, to make the terms so far-fetched or out of the range of agreeable to where you can just look and say, hey, look, they're not willing to negotiate.
Yeah.
It's the powers that be, the people who are in charge setting the precedents for the agreement, but the precedents that they're setting is not reasonable for the other side.
Right.
And they're only setting it like that because they have the power to do so, which is foul. One of the things for sure on Hamas's list is Palestinian statehood. Just get out of our land. Give us our shit back.
Yeah.
And Israel is not even presenting that as a part of the deal.
Yeah.
So while they're still committing more war crimes, two things that they just did. One of the Hamas children, like his children and grandchildren, were killed. One of the top Hamas officials. Now, according to Israel, months ago, all of the Hamas officials and their families were moved to Qatar, were moved to Saudi Arabia, according to them. Like their family they tried to spin it like their family members are all well taken care of somewhere else out the way.
Right. But
clearly they're not. So number one, it shows that they have been targeting their family members for sure. Number two, there was a person who was a part of the Palestinian municipal system. So he basically was a civil servant. He was killed. He was targeted and killed. Wasn't a part of Hamas. He was doing his best to maintain his position, just managing the city. That's all. Fixing shit. Making sure aid got to people, trying to figure out. But he became really popular in the sense to where he was doing a really good job. And they targeted and killed him. Yeah. So they're yet again, another sign of them killing civilians, targeting children. Yet again, more war crimes to be added. Yet again, more that, like the point that you made, for America to be implicated when this is all wrapped up. So all I'm gonna say is that America is going to yet again owe another group reparations. There's another group that they're gonna owe reparations to.
And I think about Marjorie Taylor Greene's, text or tweet or whatever, and I'm like, what exactly are we repenting for? Is it this? Like, what would you like us to repent for? Like, I wonder, when she prays for America at night, she says, forgive us for what? Is it racism? Is it aiding a genocide?
What sins
exactly
does she feel that we need to be? And what sins are we committing that we don't have to commit?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I would imagine her list includes things like DEI programs and
allowing trans people to have rights. These are the sins of America.
I'd imagine that's what her list recommends to God as the things he should forgive.
It is a truly twisted world that they live in, and I don't know, for us, it does feel like the Twilight Zone. It does, because it doesn't make any sense. And it's like, how can they live in such a world that is so contradictory to what they say?
Yeah.
I always say this again in the context of Christianity, how we know Jesus hung with his 12 partners. He went to the church and kicked over tables of folks who was making money in the church. He welcomed thieves. He welcomed prostitutes. He was one of the ones to walk amongst the people, be amongst the people. He wanted for things to be shared. He took a fish, 5 fish and some loaves, and gave to everybody and didn't charge them. If that's not socialism, I don't know what is. So my point is to say, how is that Jesus in all of his acts, how are y'all so the opposite?
Jesus would hate. Jesus would, like, even as a kid, I remember thinking, like, Jesus would probably want to kick it with me before a lot of the preachers in this pulpit.
It's
like, and I believe that. Like, I think about, like, Joel Osteen, like, hell, even, there are black mega churches in Dallas that I go to and they got gift shops in the damn church. And I'm like, this is it, huh? Like, did y'all not read the whole scripture? Because he would have been completely against what y'all are talking about right now.
It's just interesting that, and again, we're just talking about Christianity in general, but if we add the white supremacy aspect of Christianity, how it's been used and manipulated. Speaking of, you ready to go to the next topic? Speaking of how religiosity is affecting our decisions in law, Arizona has completed one of the most draconian bans in the history of America, meaning that the ban on abortion, they said this was the worst since 1864, the most restrictive since 1864. This was before women could even vote.
This was 1864, and during that time, like, we were very much like in a Civil War era, right? Where they probably needed a whole lot of bodies. So yeah, there was pretty much a total abortion ban. And the Arizona Supreme Court just ruled that it can be enacted. An 1864 law. Like you said, before women could vote, before black people could do anything.
Before black people we was a year, 1865, it was a year before.
Like, are we kidding? Arizona.
That is insane. And what I think, the details specifically, correct me if I'm wrong. So it's a 14-day window, which is crazy.
Yes.
The only exception for an abortion is if it saves the mother's lives. There's nothing else.
Yep.
Nothing else.
I saw
no other reason.
Article, and who the fuck did they quote? It was a PR. It was a press release. Came to my email, and it was from a political organization, but they're like Christian leaning. I don't know how that works, but anyway, so the press release talked about Trump's recent statements about abortion. Remember, he was just like, I feel like the state should make their own decisions, and he talked about, I think the GOP should get behind procedures like IVF, all of that, right? Those he actually like was a little softer on it than I thought he would be, but okay. So they put out this press release, and whoever wrote the press release said, and I quote, that while our hearts and minds are with the women who go through these horrid, who like are victims of these horrid crimes, no baby should die because her father is a rapist.
What?
Period. End quote. And I had to like look at it for a few minutes at my computer. Like,
I don't even understand that. That doesn't even.
Yeah. It's like, I'm sorry someone forced themselves up on you and you ended up having a baby or getting pregnant, but that baby didn't do anything to you. And yeah, the daddy may be a rapist, but deal with it. Like,
yeah.
And I mean, this group talked about not believing in exceptions for rape or incest. And that in certain cases, if there's a chance of the mother's life being saved, we should still give the baby a chance. Like, if there's a 50% chance that the mother could make it.
That's crazy.
Yeah, we should go on and give that. It's insane.
It's interesting because, again, what I find the most interesting is the fact that when you talk to different groups, they all have different reasonings for it. So, of course, if you're talking to the religious group, the Christian group, it's like, oh, in the Bible, we got to be fruitful and multiply, They give you scriptures. For like the extreme white supremacists, they do specifically talk about the replacement theory. We need as many babies as possible because America was founded by white men and we need to keep it ran by white men.
Yep.
Let's be clear, America is still ran by white men. This threat that they perceive to have is one that is very much so not psychotic, but not deranged, but it's obsessive. It's obsessive. But then also you have people who are looking at this from a political perspective, and they know the numbers. It's not them being racist. It's not them being not them thinking in the way that those extreme white supremacists think. They're just like, the majority of our voters are poor white people. We need more, and we need more of them to keep our interests in power. It's not that we want to be racist. It's not that we want this or that or race to We just know that in order for us to maintain our power and where we are, our power structure as is, we need more white babies. Yeah, we need more of that. And I think it's interesting because another thing about it is, if y'all really want more white children, how about y'all like regulate some of these food companies that's killing y'all? How about y'all, this environmental poverty and pollution? How about y'all work on that? Like, there are certain things that y'all could actually do. Work on that. And I'm not necessarily trying to help the white birth rate. I want all, let's be clear, I want all babies to be born. I want all babies to be healthy. And that's, again, that's based off of the parents' decisions. Let's be clear. If parents want to have children, if a mother wants to have a child, I want all children to be born healthily and live in a world free from racism and bullshit. Let's be clear there. But it just goes to show that, where are y'all priorities? Yeah. Y'all priorities would rather, as white men in power, you'd rather step on white women because, again, there are more white women in this country having children and having abortions. And they know that their women and their children tend to vote along their lines. Yeah. So, I mean, I was just meeting with someone who, I didn't know this because she's very liberal, but she is the product of an incredibly racist and homophobic father who pretty much told her for a very long time that she didn't need to vote. And if she was going to vote, just ask him what she should put on the ballot. And, that's all she needed to know. She didn't need to get involved with politics or, figure out what her own opinion was or anything like that. And so white men also know that white women, because they understand that staying close to the fire does allow them a certain level of privilege. Even though they are women, they are still white. And so as long as I stay near the source of power, I may have to deal with a mistress or whatever, but at least I get my big ass house. And I may have to deal with alcoholism, may have to deal with abuse. Right. But you know what? This is American love. Yes. Like, all for the American dream is to make sure that I create American babies. So I look at that oftentimes and I'm like, I do get, and you're 100% right. I don't think all of these politicians are looking at it in a racist way. I think for them, it is a numbers game. It is a numbers game. That, like, to get the numbers that I need for the platform that I run on, this is the demographic I have to continue to create. And let's be clear, when I'm saying politics, I'm more so thinking like capitalism and businessmen, because it's the capitalists and the businessmen who are, it's the capitalists and businessmen who are supporting these policies, and they're putting the money in the pockets of these politicians. So let's be clear, that's really what I'm saying. Yeah. There's a reason why they need low wage workers. Walmart, these larger companies, these larger corporations, they need that workforce. They need that poor white, Black, Hispanic workforce to exploit it. And if more people are becoming more educated, if more people are are having a better understanding and idea of their rights, i.e. unionizing, that's not good for the system. That's fucking up the money.
Yeah.
It's fucking up the church's money.
Yeah, I want to go back to something you said because I loved it. Talking about, you feeding the kids sugar smacks for breakfast. The kids that you said that you wanted, in the world and wanted to live a good life. And this is what y'all saying, right? The abortion ban for y'all is about like every child deserves a chance. But again, you give them sugar for breakfast and all the food is processed and the earth is on fucking fire. And they're breathing terrible air. They all got asthma and allergy. So wouldn't it make more sense to say, hey, especially millennials and Gen Zs, right? One of the reasons that we are not having children, y'all, is because it is irresponsible to bring children into, at least for me, it is just irresponsible to bring a child into this world right now. Like, based on just the shit that's going on, the cost of living, I know that a lot of my friends are like, I can't give that child the quality of life that I would want to. And so I'd rather just not. I'd rather just not. Wouldn't it make more sense to say, you know what? If I made education more affordable, if I made housing more affordable, if I made food better, if I did something about the climate change that our country is absolutely helping to drive, then maybe these people would be like, yeah, I don't mind having a baby. Absolutely. I'm not too stressed to lay up with my boo and do.
Well, let's be clear here. America has always, when America, well, let me speak specifically. When the white supremacist aspect of America wants to get make something happen, they're not thinking of the most healthy. They're not thinking of the way that's the most beneficial, the long term. No,
and it would take time.
Yes, it would take. They're time. Not. No, that's not it. That's not it. No, we need to go directly to the source and either cut something off, or force people to do a thing.
Got it.
And so they're not. Again, America didn't get this way by being thinkers and people who were thoughtful and wanted to seek out an intelligent way to make things happen. They got America by being brutal,
blunt force,
by being savage. So as a result, those ideals are still within our system. And
it shows up. The way that we do things. I was reading this article the other day about how many young people are starting to be diagnosed with like cancer cases that for centuries, decades, you wouldn't see until people were in their 60s and 70s and 80s. They're like, why are 20, 30, 40-year-olds being diagnosed? And before I even read the article, I was like, I can fucking tell you why people my age are being diagnosed with things like pancreatic cancer and colon. Like, number one, everything we touch in this country is poison. Everything we touch. There is a reason, y'all, when you go to another country, you can sit there and on your ass and eat and you will still lose weight. There is a reason when you leave this country and you go eat the pastas and the breads and you will still come back 10 pounds lighter because everything that we are fed in this country causes inflammation, and inflammation directly drives cancer and diabetes and arthritis, all that autoimmune shit where your body starts fighting each other. Like, literally, we know the science behind this in our country. So I think about you saying like, oh, they need, poor people to work these jobs. We're not going to be around long. You only going to have us for a decade or two, because at this rate, everyone's going to be killed off by the time they're 40, 50 years old. So y'all need us to probably have babies because you're going to be cycling through us a lot quicker.
And they also realize that when people are coming here, they're creating their communities and truly not divesting from them. Like, again, there's a reason why there's a little Mexico in majority large urban cities. There's a reason why there's a Chinatown, a Koreatown, this. They're realizing that when people are coming here, they are being exploited, and as a result, they're just going inward. They're not they're not. A lot of them just aren't even voting. They're not even a part of the political. They're not even. So I think that's more the issue. If more migrants were coming here and automatically voting Republican, pretty sure they wouldn't have a problem with it. But you'd be told they're either maybe voting Democrat or they're not even being a part of the political system at all. They're creating their own economic systems within their communities,
which I'm okay with.
That they're not even allowing white people or the powers that be to be a part of it because they're figuring it out on their own.
I'm okay. I am okay with a closed loop, y'all. Like I have friends that's like, should we start homesteading? Let me know.
And that's not. And when I say they're keeping white people out, let's be clear, that's not a crazy statement because white people are feeling left out and we know this because they are attacking DEI.
They're being decentered.
They are
in spaces that they wasn't even probably paying attention to.
Wasn't even paying attention to. And again, let's be even more clear on that part. They created the system. The U.S. government for years enabled a system that pushed us down so far to where we had to focus on our own issues. And now here we are in 2024. Now that we are focusing on our own issues, they are having a problem with it. So y'all, they're doing everything they can via law to not only keep Black people from teaching and educating and empowering ourselves, but they're also stopping their women from empowering themselves. So it's looking like a power campaign. They're taking power from everybody they can, except white men who are right now on trial, borrowing money, which leads us to our next topic. Our next topic. We're gonna touch here just for a little bit, y'all. The news that is Trump. What's going on with him. So right now, Letitia James has been given the green light to go ahead and start seizing Trump's properties. And that's in part because one of the companies can't even be used.
Yes. Knight Specialty Insurance, I believe the name of the company that said they was putting up this they was backing this $175 million bond. Now remember, the original bond was $464 million. An appeals judge was like, that's pretty out the way. I'll take it down to 175 for you. So he was still scrambling, trying to figure out who was going to like put this bond together for him. And a company based out of California, I believe, came up and was like, I'll do it. Well, we thought closed case, cool, bond is all that. No. On the prosecutor side, lawyers popped up and was just like, we should probably look into this insurance company. But number one, they are unlicensed. First things first.
Talking about illegal immigrants? We talking about illegal companies?
Who we talking about?
Send them back over the border.
They're unlicensed. And second, they have not been properly vetted to show that they even have the like financial standing to be able to back said bond. So like similar to a bank, right? Like banks have to have a certain reserve based on like the customer base, all of that, and like how much business they do. So that's one of the reasons that we saw like Silicon Valley Bank failing, right? Because they failed to meet the reserve. People made a run on the bank. The shit failed. So very similar with these insurance companies. Like if you are saying that you can back this bond, cool, you probably have to have a certain percentage sitting in reserve just in case I need to come call it in. The second issue with this company, y'all, is that the language of the bond is very uncommon. Wherein instead of saying that if Trump fails to come up with the $464 million plus interest, so I think it ended up being like $470 something million with the interest he was accruing before he posted the bond. It says that Trump will pay it back. Not the insurance company, which literally negates the whole point of having an insurance company underwrite the bond. So like Letitia James and company went up and was like, hold on, Mr. Judge, like this is not right. So apparently she is now on speed dial and may be able to start seizing some of his properties because this company is looking like it's
not going to be able to be even used. It's
maybe
who would have thought Trump dealing with a fraudulent case with a fraudulent company?
No, not in a fraud case. He wouldn't do that.
No,
he's not that.
Y'all, what we're watching is this. we're watching number one, we're watching white male privilege at its finest. White male privilege at its finest. For someone to have broken so many laws and to get so much leeway and to get so much backing in his wrongness. Yeah. We're talking companies are putting up hundreds of millions of dollars to support this man. So with him having to deal with this potentially fraudulent company, or at least company that's not even usable for him, it goes to show that he's running out of ground. He's running out of ground to walk on. He's running out of rope. He's running out of it. And I do believe that his supporters are still behind him and they're still sending him money. But what it goes to show is that your base, those poor and middle class folks, what they're giving is not enough. Those Bibles aren't going platinum. You are not $59.99. Not for the low price of $59.99. So let's be clear. What it goes to show y'all that this person who, number one, y'all touted as being so good in business, and all that, shows that number one, he cannot be saved by y'all. His problems are bigger than you. For y'all to be voting on someone who's so rich and have broken so many rich laws. Again, these are not smaller petty laws that, again, low class, lower socioeconomic, middle socioeconomic, not those crimes that would, that the majority of supporters would potentially be a part of. And grab. Yeah, this is not none of that. These are big crimes. So the thing about it is, it just goes to show that y'all putting y'all trust in someone who, yet again, does not relate to y'all. And it's showing, like, it's clear that he doesn't relate to y'all because, again, y'all can't afford to fix his problems. So
the tennis shoes, the Bibles. What else he's selling? He's stocks. The stock. Into that. That
Truth
lost
Social,
20% of his value.
20% of his value. 12% one day, 8% another day. Y'all, it's a sinking ship, and guess what? I guess y'all gonna go down with it because he's going to take everything with him. Y'all. Let's be clear. If I have a message for his supporters, he's going to take America down with him. He's not going to face responsibility. He's going to do his absolute best. And what that looks like, we don't know. Yeah. We're looking at powers like Netanyahu. We know that he is in a similar space. The people are not for him. And now he has to keep this war going. So Trump, again, looking at the history, we know what leaders like you do in America. What you do, number one thing you go for is war. Number one thing you do go for is inciting some kind of violent situation. So just know that that's what Trump is going to bring. If he has to face real accountability, he's going to advocate for violence in some way, shape, or form. He's going to encourage it in some way, shape, or form because that's what they do.
That's real. And he said it.
Oh, and he's also said it.
Yeah, like
bloodshed. He said bloodshed.
Right. He was like, it's going to be bloodshed if I don't win. So we will have a lot of content for the Green Route if he does win. Well, hell, if he don't win, we're going to have a lot of content. And lastly, y'all, let's talk about a little bit of white accountability. Like, what? Dished out. I'm here for it.
You know what? So recently, Ethan Crumley. So he was the young man he committed a mass school shooting. Yep. I think he killed 4 people, four children.
I'm about to get his stats right now.
He killed 4 people. The thing about his situation was that's significant is the fact this is the first case a mass shooter who is a child whose parents are now being held accountable for their child's actions.
That's right.
Now, mind you, America has more mass shootings, school shootings, than any other country, and it's been having them for years. We have a history of it, and yet again, our governmental apparatus has failed to protect children, but that's a different conversation. But this is the first time parents have now been held accountable. They both are facing 10 to 15 years for it. And it's interesting because the hope is that this might set precedents for parents to look at their children even harder. For Ethan, I want to say it may have been the day before. It may have been a few days before, to where they put out a huge red flag. They called the parents and they talked to them, and they said, we have grave reason to be concerned about your son and what he potentially might do. And what did they do? Nothing.
Not a damn
They were
thing.
dismissive.
Yep.
If anything. And then lo and behold, this is what happened.
Mm-hmm.
So my hope is that more schools start to do this. They start when they see these behaviors. My hope is that they reach out to parents and leave that trail, so that we can have more parents going to jail for ignoring the warning signs. Because I think for a lot of them, they might not understand the warning signs of a mentally unstable child. They might not even understand it. But guess what? Ignorance of it is no excuse. The same thing they told us when we were doing things as youth. Well, when the judicial system was looking at black children, hell, when they were putting black parents in jail because our kids were missing too much school, our unawareness was not an excuse. So.
Well, and I'm just looking. I'm actually sitting here, just looking at some of the testimony that Jennifer Crumley, his mother, gave, and one of the most troubling things for me was her saying that if she could do it all over again, she wouldn't do anything different. That she's okay with ignoring, the signs, and we know you knew, because she had sent her son a text like, "Hey, don't do it." You know what I mean? Like we know that you knew he was like
unhinged.
I mean, right? And so and there are times, right, where parents don't know what's going on with their kids. Parents are busy. Like, I can definitely remember times in my childhood where I was sad about something and I didn't want to bother my mom with it because you got your own shit going on. You know what I mean? So I do understand that children, depending on the type of house you live in, you can get very good at hiding your issues and hiding your problems from your parents. But at the same time, to have the school calling, to have teachers reaching out like, "Hey, I'm noticing something," even if you don't see it at home, I think that warrants a parent to stop and be like, "Yo, I may be busy, but let me go check in real quick. Let me just go see what's up with this kid."
I think they didn't. No, they didn't.
And then gave him access to weapons on top of that.
They bought the gun.
So even if you didn't think he was going to do something to other people, nothing concerned you about him potentially harming himself. Like that, to me, like my sister, one of my sisters deals with depression. And there are moments where I can like feel like how sad she is, and I'll just call her every day. Like, "Hey, just checking in on you. Just want to talk to you. Or, what you doing? Because you don't know where people's minds will take them. And so to know that these parents not only had several warnings from his teachers, from administrators, things like that, but then was just like, "Well, he said, this will make him feel better. So I'm going to get him this rifle. I'm going to get him this handgun." Like, what the fuck? I am glad this precedent is being set, because the other thing that it reminded me of is, what's that idiot that just got ran off of Memphis University?
Kyle Rittenhouse.
When I found out his mama drove him down there with that long gun, and I was just like, you drove him across state lines to go do what?
And I'm glad you pointed that out, because that's what we're speaking to. We're speaking to these white supremacists. They don't come from nowhere. Like, there is an entire environment that coddles them and nurtures them, and that's what needs to be attacked. Yeah, that's the thing that needs to be confronted. If y'all want to stop gun safety, but y'all don't want to deal with guns because y'all making money from the NRA. If y'all don't want, that's fine. Again, there are other ways that you can help this issue by offering mental health to these parents, mental health help to these white country because let's be clear here, the majority of mass shootings come from young white males who come from low socioeconomic backgrounds, rural backgrounds. So I'm not just saying this. If y'all can remove yourself again from the religiosity and think about the mental health aspect of your own community. Think about that. Look, we giving y'all today. We helping y'all. We helping these we're helping these communities that hate us.
But the same question you asked about Marjorie Taylor Greene, like, are you crazy because you racist, or are you racist because you crazy? Like, so how do we treat both? Because we don't know which one comes.
We don't know which one comes first. Is it the indoctrination? Do you really believe this? What is it? Because you might be in sound mind and this is just what you believe. And it just might make so much sense. Indoctrination is real, because that's one of the issues with indoctrination. You don't know whether or not these people sincerely believe this because there's a chemical imbalance, or they sincerely believe it because the indoctrination is just that strong. Yeah. And that's a scary place to be. So I don't know, y'all. So this is a good precedence that's being set.
I agree. I was happy to see it. And I'm hoping that, parents will think twice now after watching these two parents get 10 to 15. And they got them both, mama and daddy. Everybody getting it. So I think, think twice before you start allowing your child just to freely roam around, right? And even before you have it in your house like that, if you know that you have some indoctrination that could lead to something, like maybe you make some different decisions about keeping weapons in your house until
it's not only that, because again, when you're so lost in it, then you don't think you're wrong. The thing about it is who I blame are the politicians who are stoking those fears, knowing good and damn well, knowing like they're doing it for a vote, but they're not taking the full cost into effect. And the full cost of this is the full cost of you stoking those fears, dog whistling. You're doing it for the votes because you want to be voted in, and you want to have that kind of support behind you. But you don't realize, again, you are pushing them further and further to a dark place that they won't come back from. And it's manifesting itself in different ways. It's manifesting itself in mass shooters. It's manifesting itself in domestic terroristic actions. It's manifesting itself in all kinds of ways.
They just had to stop a planned threat like that was like backed by ISIS. Y'all.
Yeah. So again, we're just observing it. We just see it, and we're just letting y'all know that there is a deeper cost to you appeasing that group for your own gain.
And I will also say, from a woman's perspective, so a lot of times when you dig into these young men and their thoughts about, their place in society, a lot of it is they feel isolated, not only like socially with their peer groups, but by women. And this is where that whole incel thing comes from, right? And so I was actually looking at someone who I do consider a friend, but I ain't gonna even lie, he's starting to give incel energy. And he had just started ranting one day about, like, it was on social media, of course, about how, women don't want good men and they want the mean guy because the mean guy can provide. And like, it was just like, he was just going off. There
was a lot of hurt.
Yeah. And
but so it was like a darker hurt, like a little bit like.
Like it was very unlike him. Like, now I knew he had some like thoughts about women that we had debated before. And I was just like, okay, you just mad because you ain't getting no ass. Like, and I just kind of left it.
That's a real thing.
Right? Yeah. Right.
It's frustration.
Like, don't be a lame nigga. Like,
it's easy.
So I reached out to him and I was like, hey, is everything okay? Like, you good? You need to talk. And he like starts flipping out on me. And I was just like,
he's like, nah, I definitely need to talk to you.
Right.
I
was just like, oh, okay. And he literally told me, he was like, I can understand, like, why men lose it and snap, because like between feeling like we don't belong anywhere and not being able to get a decent woman because they want the bad boys, like anybody would snap. And this is a Black man telling me this.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking to myself, like, if you feel this way and you have no one in this country has ever centered you.
Right.
But imagine a young white man who has always been told that the world is his oyster and this is his country and he should always be centered. Not feeling centered and not feeling like he can't have anything he wants when he has been told that everything you touch belongs to you.
Yeah.
We need to also make sure that these young men understand that no one fucking owes them anything. Not women, not kids at school. Are people terrible? 100%. But that does not give you the right to roll up on them and take their lives because you were socially, pushed to the margins or whatever. And I hate to say it, but when you start digging in, a lot of them have been indoctrinated online with these groups that tell them because they are not being centered and because they're being brushed off by women that they should take things into their own hands. So parents, you need to talk to your kids about it, specifically your boys.
Yeah.
Specifically.
I know when I have conversations with young Black men, I help them. I try to help them understand one very specific thing. White supremacy and white racism has disrupted our whole idea of manhood, of sexuality, of genders, all of that. As a result of that, we cannot seek our value within a system that is, number one, wrong or incorrect. It's not for me. Yeah. It's not, we cannot. So there are certain things that white men feel entitled to that we really should not feel entitled to. Because number one, the things they feel entitled to, they really shouldn't feel entitled to, i.e. women's bodies. We're watching it right now happen in Arizona. There are certain rules, there are certain ways that we have to make sure that we as Black men, we don't internalize. I've always said this in regards to a lot of issues. Even in regards to, the relationship dynamic with women, I always try not to consider, or I advise considering something like education level as one of your choice points for a person as part of your standard criteria, because what you're doing is you're allowing a system that we don't control to determine whether or not this person is worthy of being your lifetime partner. Nothing about their system we should take into account. Right. We really shouldn't. What we should take into account, and this is me, and I could be 100% wrong, is number one, whether you have a deep love or connection for a person. That's number one. Number two, can this person survive? Can their survival not be a detriment to your survival? That's number two. Neither of those two really include leaning on anything that is white male centered to validate your connection. Yeah. And it should not be, because again, as Black men, as we get older, we have to make sure we fight against it, because that brother who you're talking about definitely has fallen into that space to where he thinks that, because he's nice or because he's this, that, he's supposed to get women or he's supposed to have women, or media has indoctrinated him into thinking that this is the way he has to be to get women or to get what he wants, and he can't be that person. And that's and it makes sense, because I'm not that person. No man is that person. We are our own individual selves. And the best thing that we can do as men is to be the best men that we can be for ourselves first. If anyone chooses to come along and be connected to, what we got going on, that's the blessing. But if not, we have to spend our time, or we should be spending our time as Black men, making ourselves the best that we can be, and not being mad because she don't want to fuck with us. Well, yeah, sorry,
a lot of that validation comes from the female gaze, right? But on the other side, we have a lot of women who place their value in how many men want them, or how many men they can turn down, or whatever. So on going both ways, it's an issue. But I 100% agree in that friend of mine has taken on the value system that was never built for him. And so when he says things like, it's my job to provide and her job to take care of the house. Well, when have Black women ever been able to stay home and not work and take care.
It's been a while since we've had most of our single parent homes are led by women.
So I'm trying to figure out exactly whose life he's trying to model, because it's not our culture. It's not, we never heard about our enslaved ancestors sitting up in the house while the men worked the field. Everybody was out there pulling their weight and more. And so yeah, I look at that and that's when I start to understand though why black men like him see Trump as someone that like they can get behind because they aspire to be that. He's got the money, he's got the wealth, he's got the women, and I want those things. And so if I get behind him, maybe, just maybe, he'll build some systems out that'll benefit that'll me. Allow me to and baby boy,
and that don't happen.
That ain't for you. It ain't never been for you.
It's not gonna happen, player. It's not gonna happen. It's one of those things where it's like you have to understand that. First of all, the kind of system that you're aspiring to set up for yourself is more than likely not even good for you.
Yeah.
It's not even good for you.
Yep.
And you won't realize that until you end up in that situation. And truth be told, you don't know what is good for you if you're aspiring for that. Mm-hmm. Let's be clear.
Remember the couple we talked about where she was hiding money?
Yeah.
And so I thought about that. I was like, the type of woman you were saying you want, because you got money and education and you're a nice guy, she's going to be looking for someone to give her all the things that you think like are your value.
Look, man.
And then you're going to be mad when you find out that she there for the money in the house and she had this baby so that you can give her alimony and child support. You're going to be mad when you find that out. But that is the system that you said you wanted to play in.
Right.
And so her mama also told her that if you're going to play this game, here's what you need to get out of it. You need to make sure you have a couple babies. You need to make sure you don't have to work. You need to make sure that you putting 45, 50,000 to the side.
Look, I'm gonna call it like I see it now. What it sounds like is some of y'all want to be legitimate tricks. You want to be that.
But then you want to get mad. You want to get a woman that's looking for a trick.
You want to make yourself into a legitimate trick or a legitimate slave master. Someone you can either order and direct to do what you want to do because you're paying them or because you provide some kind of something for them. Let's be clear. I do believe that when it comes to the partnership dynamic, romantic relationship partnership dynamic, both of you should be giving and taking. Both of you should be doing things for each other that are practical. Like it can't all just be, I just like looking in your eyes and gazing into your soul. It's not all that. No.
My grandma said, ain't that much love in the world.
Ain't that much love in the world. Ain't that much. You got to be doing something to help me. You have to be doing something like that. So the thing about it is, I do believe in an exchange, but to the extent to where it is, I'm working and you're going to secure the house. I don't think that works for everybody. Does it work for some people? Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it can work for certain people if they agree to it and it makes them feel comfortable and that's what they want. I have no issues with women wanting to quote unquote be the Stepford wife or want to play that domestic role, and men wanting to be the men who go and make the bacon and all that, whatever that dynamic.
That's y'all's understanding.
As long as y'all's understanding and y'all are okay with it, no one's forcing anybody into it, that's totally fine. But for a lot of us, we're only aspiring for something that's going to be toxic for us.
That's right. That's
actually going to be harmful to our mental health. Because some men will work their brains and their skin and their heart and their all that off only for them to sit back and realize that they've missed their children's lives. They never developed a real connection with their wife. They never actually experienced life. Why?
Like
because that part.
Yeah.
Or for them to either lose their jobs and end up losing their entire families. Because let's be clear, the number 2 reason for divorces is money related. So it's not a crap shoot, but it's definitely not automatically a winning situation. Sorry, y'all. That was our tangent for the. we just had to just tap in
Long
that.
story short, don't nobody owe you nothing.
Don't nobody owe you nothing, bro. And nobody owe nobody nothing.
Oh,
so y'all
man.
checking in real quick. Thank y'all for rocking with us. We're gonna check in real quick. How you feeling, Mel?
I'm feeling good. I'm a little overwhelmed this week. Very busy week. But good shit happening. Got to do Disney Dreamers Academies last week.
How was that?
That was really dope. It was busy as fuck. Like here I was thinking I was going to be able to like park hop and take pictures with, no, I was running around to press conferences and interviews and all kind of stuff. But it was a great experience. Definitely taught me a lot about how to cover such a massive event and kind of hone in on my angle and my story. So
that's dope.
That was really dope. But yeah, busy week. I do want to shout out and just give a moment of gratitude to Mr. James Washington, who he was the publisher and owner at one point of Dallas Weekly, the publication that I work for. His son now owns the publication and is now the publisher, but he passed away on the 2nd of April. So his funeral was today, and in the journalism community, specifically Black journalism, he was a giant amongst giants. And so even when I got to Orlando, when people realized that I was from Dallas Weekly, like it was just like crazy how many people were just like, send my love to the Washington family. So definitely wanted to shout out a pillar of Black Dallas, of the Black journalism community across the nation, honestly. Yeah. Mr. James Washington. So yeah.
That's real. That's real.
And how you doing?
I'm actually doing really good. Okay. So nothing really significant has happened. But I've been able to I can say that I've been in some new spaces. So I was at Canvas last night. Really, really cool vibe up there. Rooftop vibe. Oh, Canvas, the hotel. Yeah. Okay, so I was there last night. I'm going to be doing an event with Taylor this Friday, second anniversary of What's Your Truth. So it's just a dialogue conversation about, relationships and love and all that. So I'm looking forward to that. So I'm in a good space. I've been working out a lot more. I worked out yesterday. I may go work out today.
Love it.
I'm realizing that it's one of those things where it's like you got to keep going with it, because once you take a break and try to go back, your first day back, you're going to be cramping up, because that's what happened to me. That's what would happen to me. And I don't like them cramps. They hurt.
You got to get that watering too.
All of that.
Get that watering.
So, but yeah, overall, I've been really good.
I'm proud of you.
So,
look at you.
Yeah, we not. There's no complaints right now at all.
Love it. All right. Well, shit. We got Black Canvas tomorrow night.
Black Canvas tomorrow night.
Is it at 5?
We are at Heroes Lounge tomorrow.
Okay. We got Coda, Celebration of the Arts.
Shout out to Coda.
6 or 7.
Shout out to Drika. Shout out to the whole Coda family.
For sure. But yeah, it's actually at the Foundation Room, House of Blues, this year. So that's really dope. And I think that's all I wanted to shout out.
Yeah, I think that's all I have in mind too. So
okay. Well, all right, y'all. We're going to wrap this up. You want a benediction?
Y'all, we have to understand a few things. The number one thing that we do need to understand is that these systems are not thinking about us. They are in place for a reason. There are powers that be that want these systems to be in place. They are okay calling out certain things, but then not standing on it when it comes to other countries. We understand that, but thank God someone is standing on something. We have a few people still left that are holding people accountable, and we really need to keep them in our prayers and in our hearts and in our minds.
I love it.
Because accountability is the only thing, or is the main thing, that's going to help us see it right, see it clearly.
Yes.
Even when we're eclipsed. When things are in the way of the light, we need accountability to move it on out the way. So.
All right, y'all. That's the week. Hope y'all have a good one. Be safe out there. And,
like, follow, subscribe.
All that. And then shout out to Kenny, of course. The Sour Kids production. And yeah, we will see y'all next week.
Peace.
And still wouldn't be enough. And they are lucky that what Black people are looking for is equality and not revenge.